Bonjour, welcome to Wahsa Distance Education Center's radio Zoom classes. This is MBF3C, grade 11 college math, and I am Bronwyn Slade. If you'd like to participate live today, you're welcome to call the Wahsa studio at 1-800-465-7144 or 737-4017. You can listen on the radio at 91.9 FM or on the television at Bell Express View Channel 972. You are always welcome to join me through the Zoom link, which is available from me, your teacher, and also your DEC. Our classes are scheduled on Monday through Thursday, 11 till 12 in the morning, and we are now currently in our 7th week of our 9-week course. At this point, you should be submitting some work for marking. So a reminder that the support questions, the ones marked with the pencil icon, are not for marking. You decide which ones and how many to do. If you understand a concept, feel free to skip questions. And if you need more practice, let me know and I can send you more practice. The answers are in the back of your booklet, so check your work to make sure you're on the right track. However, mistakes have been found, so if anything doesn't seem to be lining up, let me know and we can check to see if that's an error. The key questions, the ones marked with the key icon, are the marked questions. So please do all of them, showing all of your work, your thinking, your steps, so that I can give you credit for all of your understanding. This also helps me if you're struggling with a concept to understand where you're going wrong so that I can help you understand better. In order to submit your marking, there are 3 different methods. The first method is to scan and send your work in electronically. You can scan your completed work in through, if you have a smartphone, the iPhone's Notes app, or the Android Google Drive app. If you don't have a smartphone and you just want to take pictures, that's fine too. You can then send it to either by email to studentwork@nnec.on.ca and then CC it to bronwyn.slate@nnec.on.ca, or you can send it to me through Facebook Messenger to bslateWahsa. The second method is to drop it off in Sioux Lookout. We have an outdoor mailbox at 74 Front Street. We're the big red building next to the post office, and there's a small white mailbox next to our side entrance. We are currently working remotely, so it may take me a couple of days to get your work, but I'll get it back to you as soon as I can. The third method is to hand it into your DEC. Your DEC can then send your work through the Express to 807-737-1732 or toll-free fax to 1-800-463-7852. Always, if you have any questions or concerns, please contact me. My email address is the probably most direct way to get me, which is bronwyn.slate, which is spelled BRONWYN.SLATE@nec.on.ca. Or you can connect with me on Facebook, which I also respond to fairly quickly. My name there is bslateWahsa. You can call and leave a message for me on the main line at the office and I'll return your call as soon as I can. The number is 807-737-1488 or toll free 1-800-667-3703. My office hours this term are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. And as always, I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. If you'd like to connect with me through social media, you're welcome to friend me on Facebook and subscribe to my YouTube channel. They're both under the name bslateWahsa. Our Zoom classes are uploaded every afternoon after airing, and I put them on YouTube and then I share them on Facebook, so you can access them both through those places. And there's also short videos on my YouTube channel that explain common errors and confusing concepts, things that many folks run into. So that's a great place to access if you're struggling with an idea. Is a very visual subject, so accessing the videos is really, really essential to make sure that you understand the most. If you don't have access to reliable internet, so you can't join us through Zoom or watch the replays on YouTube, let me know and I can send you a USB key or something with all of the videos on it. So just communicate with me and I'll hook you up. All right, we're on day 27 of our course. And we're doing another Throwback Thursday lesson focusing on lessons 16 to 17, but of course covering material from all of our previous units as well. So at this point, we know why we're reviewing consistently, but just a reminder that the forgetting curve, which is research done by Herman Ebbinghaus in 1885, showed that we forget things really, really quickly. We don't retain things for very long. We forget fast, and then we forget a lot, and that slows down over time. So in order to retain information, if we revisit that information frequently, and that we remember it, more of it, because we are revisiting it, and we also forget it not as fast. So we can remember things longer if we revisit it frequently, and that really sets us up for success. So we continue to revisit our topics all the way back to the beginning of the course, so that in a couple of weeks, when you're finished your coursework and you're doing your exam, you are more likely to remember what we've done and hopefully carry that through forward, all the learning that you've done into future courses or just your life in general. All right, let's activate our brain and do some mental math. We know I'm not a fan of the mad minutes, but instead we like to focus on strategies that actually develop skills sets so we can do arithmetic and feel comfortable with numbers. So that's what we focus on. So today we're going to look at the question 151, take away 98, and we're going to use the strategy of constant difference. So what that means is that we're going to shift both of these numbers to become friendly numbers so that the relationship, the difference is still the same, but we're dealing with numbers that are friendlier than 151 and 98. This would end up having to do some borrowing if we were to use the classic algorithm, which many of us struggle with. So 151 is only one away from 150. So my gut tells me to do that, to shift that down, but then I'm going to have 150 take away 97, and that might not actually be easier. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift both my numbers up. And so I'm going to shift 98. I'm going to add 2 to 98 to make that 100. And I'm going to add 2 so that it's the same difference. I'm still shifting it all together to get 153. So 153 take away 100 is really easy to see that it is 53. So 151 take away 98 is also going to be 53. If I wanted to, I could have shifted my 151 to 150 and my 98 to 97, but that was going to, my head maybe say, oh, it's only a difference of 3, which, because I forgot about the 50. So shifting it this way set me up for more success. But again, you could shift it in any way that you wanted to that made the most sense for you. All right, so let's recap what we've covered. We've covered a lot because we were almost at the end of the course. So this is a little bit of a long recap, but quickly just to go through the units and then we'll go through more detail. Lesson 1, way back at the beginning, was transformations of quadratic functions. Lesson 2 was polynomials and factoring. 3 was solving and graphing quadratic equations. 4 was exponent laws. 5 was simple exponential equations. Then unit 2 was, for some reason I have listed the, sorry. Unit 2 was, lesson 6 was simple interest in linear growth. Lesson 7 was compound interest and exponential growth. Lesson 8 was compound interest formula. Lesson 9 was loans and RRSPs. Lesson 10 was buying new and used vehicles and vehicle costs. And then I seem to be missing the next lesson. Sorry, slides aren't great today. So we've jumped into lesson 16. So lesson 11, I believe, was trigonometry. Let's see, do I have it? Yeah. So I'm missing some of my slides, but lesson 11 was trigonometry. Lesson 12 was laws of sines and laws of cosines. Lessons 14 was trigonometry and problem solving, and lesson 15 was creating nets. Then lesson 16, which was new this week, was sampling data. And lesson 17, which was new this week, was measures of central tendency and standard deviation. So that's just what all the lessons that we've covered. We've covered a lot, but now let's look at the highlights and remember what was actually in those lessons. So the review of what we did this week. So lesson 16, sampling data. We had to remember our statistical vocabulary. So we had to understand what the difference between population and sample were. And then we had 6 types of sampling. There was simple random sampling, systematic, cluster, stratified, convenience, and self-selected. Then we did lesson 17 in 2 different sessions. So first we focused on measures of central tendency, which was looking at the mean, which you find by adding up all your data points and dividing by the total number of data points. Your median, which when we order our data points from lowest to highest, we find the middle value, and that's the median. If there's 2 middle values, then we add those up and divide by 2. And then the mode, which is the value that is most frequent. So you might choose to order your values if they're numbers from lowest to highest to cluster your data, but you can also just look to see what's most frequent. It is possible to have more than one mode, so that's something to remember. Whereas you're only ever going to have one mean and one median. And then for the second part of lesson 17, which was standard deviation. So we had the range, which was the difference between the lowest and the highest values. And having an outlier really distorts your accuracy because you're only using those 2 points. Your variance measures how far data points are spread out in the set of data compared to the mean. And these are squared units. And to find it, we had to do the sum of the squares of the data points distance from the mean divided by the number of data points minus 1. So that's a really kind of confusing sentence, but going back to that lesson helps us remember all of there were 5 steps that we needed to do to calculate variance. And then standard deviation is the typical amount the data differs from the mean. So these are in the same units as the original data, and it's the square root of the variance. So we need to calculate the variance in order to find the standard deviation. All right, and then a quick recap of unit 1. So lesson 1, way back at the beginning, the transformation of quadratics, when y equals a times x minus h, quantity squared plus k, when a tells us the opening direction, either up or down, when h tells us the horizontal shift, so left or right and by how much, and k tells us the vertical shift, up or down and by how much. Lesson 2 was polynomials and factoring, and this is where we were expanding by multiplying according to the distributive law, so making sure everything was getting multiplied by everything. And factoring means that we were finding the 2 binomials that resulted in the trinomial product. And we had steps to do that in terms of finding our values that multiply to be constant and added up to be the x term. Then lesson 3 was solving and graphing quadratics. So this is when we were using factoring or expanding to solve for a quadratic, meaning that what values of x result in y equals 0. And these are our zeros or our x-intercepts if we're drawing a graph. Lesson 4 was our exponent laws, where we had 5 different laws, and we could manipulate our values to simplify things. So the multiplication law was that when we have the same base, we add the exponents. The division law is when we have the same base, we subtract the exponents. The power of a power law is that we multiply our exponents. The 0 exponent law is that anything to the exponent 0 equals 1. And having a negative exponent means that we have the reciprocal of the base. Lesson 5 was simple exponential equations. So this is very fast growth and change, either growth or decay. And it is in the form of y equals ab to the exponent x. Then unit 2 highlights. Lesson 6 was simple interest in linear growth. So the pattern is increasing or decreasing at a constant rate. So our formula was I equals PRT. And then if we were finding the total amount of our investment, it would be our P principal plus I, our interest. Lesson 7 was compounding interest and exponential growth. So here, when we're compounding interest, we have an increase or decrease at a constant ratio. So it happens really quickly. And our formula was A equals P times 1 plus R divided by N, all to the exponent NT. And again, our interest here is we calculate our total amount and we subtract our principal to find out the amount of interest that we've actually earned. And lesson 8 was looking further at the compounding interest formula. And so we had to we were using word problems, problem solving, and our problems had to include the word compound, so we knew that we were using compounding interest formula. We were rearranging our formula to find either the principal, the interest rate, or the time needed, and we had to use the nth root or the guess and test strategies for that interest rate and time problems. Lesson 9, we were looking at loans and RSPs, and the loans are when we're borrowing money and having to pay it back plus interest, and we could figure out both either the payments based on the amount that we borrowed or the amount that we could borrow based on the payments. And so we had sort of complicated formulas that I strongly encourage you to look up and to get comfortable with, but that I'll provide on the exam. And then we also had RSPs, which is when we are making a regular payment. We can get those from once you retire. And so investing early sets you up for most success in the long run. We had formulas for making contributions, and receiving payments, which is the same as the loan payments formula. So again, being comfortable with identifying those formulas is really important. Lesson 10, buying new and used vehicles and vehicle costs. So buying a new vehicle, we could calculate the monthly payment, and we can complete a deal review to figure out all of the things that are involved in buying a vehicle. Buying a used vehicle, we could calculate the depreciation value, where V equals P times 1 minus R to the exponent N. So we could figure out how much a vehicle is worth after a certain period of time. Let's talk about the cost of owning a vehicle, where we calculated fuel costs and also monthly average costs, including fuel, maintenance, insurance, and licensing fees. Then unit 3, we looked at trigonometry we had our right angle triangles, so we could use sine, cosine, and tangent to find our side lengths or angles. Then we had the sine law for when we didn't have a right angle triangle, but we knew either 2 angles and a side, or we knew 2 sides and an angle that is opposite one of the sides. And then we had our formula, the same formula, but in different forms, depending on if we were finding angles or sides, which was sine A over A equals sine B over B equals sine C over C. And then we had the law of cosines, which is when we know 2 sides in the contained angle, or we know 3 sides. And again, we had 2 different ways of the same formula for angles and for sides. So sides was C squared equals A squared plus B squared minus 2AB times cos C. Or for finding angles, cos C is equal to A squared plus B squared minus C squared, all divided by 2AB. Then we looked at solving problems using trigonometry, where we had to identify our trigonometric strategy. So either we're using primary trigonometry, SOHCAHTOA, or the sine law or the cosine law. And we had to figure out if we had the angle of elevation, which is the angle from sight line on the horizon up to an object, or angle of depression, which is the angle at sight level from the horizon, then down to an object. And then finally, we did lesson 15, which was creating nets, where we looked at nets, which are a flat version of a 3D object that can be folded to create that 3D object. A pattern is a flat version of 3D object where the parts are separated, and so would need to be reattached to create that 3D object. And a plan, which is a flat version of 3D object that shows the front, side, and top views so that it could be constructed. Whew, and that's all that we've done so far. We are up to lesson 17 out of our 20 lessons. We only have 3 more lessons to do, which we will do in our next 3 sessions, and then we'll do some review. So we've covered a lot, but it's good to go back and review. So now let's do some practice questions and try to figure out what strategies we need to use, what we're referring to, and there. All right, number 1, Albert is looking at buying a car that he hopes to resell in 5 years. Which car is the better buy for Albert? So we have car A, which costs $36,000 and has a depreciation rate of 13%. And we have car B, which costs $42,000 and has a depreciation rate of 10%. So we have one that costs less but depreciates faster, or we have one that costs more and depreciates slower. So which one is the better buy if he hopes to resell his car in 5 years and make more money? His car, which car will be worth more in 5 years, is basically what this question is asking. So we're going to do this in 2 sections. So we need to do car A. And so our depreciation formula, which hopefully you have someplace nearby. Again, these will be on the exam. You'll have a formula sheet, but you need to know how to use it. So calculating depreciation, I'm just going to write here is V, so our value is equal to P, our principal or our price, times 1, take away our depreciation rate, exponent N, which is our number of years. So for car 8, we're looking for our value. That's what we're solving for. Our price or principal is $36,000. Our rate is 13%. So that's 0.13. And our N, our time, is 5 for years. So V equals 36,000 times 1, take away 0.13, all to the exponent of 5. And you could do that in steps, or you can just do it on your calculator. I'm just going to do it all at once in my calculator. So 30,000 times, make sure you open a bracket, do 1, take away 0.13, close your bracket, and then to the exponent 5 equals $17,943.15. $17,943. $0.15. Just gonna check to make sure that I wrote that down right. Okay, so car A is going to be worth $943.15 after 5 years. So then what about car B, the one that's more expensive? So again, we're looking for the value. Our price is $42,000. Our rate of depreciation is 10%, so 0.1. And our N is still 5 years. So V equals 42,000 times 1, take away 0.1, all to the exponent of 5. Again, I'm going to put this in my calculator. So 42,000 times, open a bracket, 1, take away 0.1, close my bracket, to the exponent 5 equals 24,858. That's, sorry, $24,800 and 48 cents, 58 cents. So now looking at the 2, we can see that after 5 years, car A is worth just under 18,000 and car B is worth just under 25,000. So car B is obviously going to be worth more. And so that would be the better buy for Albert. So we would just write that in a sentence. Car B would be the better buy for Albert because it is worth more in 5 years. There we go. Okay, next question. Question 2. For the following gas prices in dollars per liter in Ontario, find the mean, median, and mode. So we have a list of gas prices. We have 144, 148, 152, 185, 179, 184, 180, 192, 171, 184, 186, and 184, and 179. So we're going to find the mean. which we add up all of our numbers, and we divide by the total that we have, the number that we have. So I am just going to add them up and not write them all down, just as always for sake of time. I'm a slow writer. So we have 144. We need to be really careful that we don't miss any of our values, which can be Y calculators that show on your screen. Can be really helpful, but it's fine. I never had a calculator like that. So 79 plus 184 plus 180 plus 192 plus 171 plus 184 plus 186 plus 184 plus 179. So that equals $22.68. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We have 13 that we're going to divide it by. There's 13 different inputs. And so the mean cost is $1.74. Per liter. Okay, so then the median. Now we do need to rewrite our information to organize it. So we're going to look for our lowest value. So I have 144 at the beginning, and then I'm looking through my numbers and I don't see anything higher than that. So I have 144, 148, 52, I think are all of my lowest at the front. Okay, so now I have 152, and now I need to see the next one. Lowest one I have is 171. And then I have 179. And I have 2 of those. So I'm just crossing them off as I rewrite them. So I had 179. So then I have a 180. I have 184. I have 3 of those. 184, 184, 184. And then I have 185, 6, and then 192. What you can do after you write them all out is that you can just check. We knew that we had 13 from finding the mean. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we have 13 values. So we know that we didn't miss any. And now we're just going to cross off the lowest and the highest to get down to our middle value. This goes back and forth. We find that our middle value is 180. So our median is equal to $1.80 per liter. And then finally, our mode is our most frequent value. So we just ordered them so we can see what we have frequency. So we have 1, 1, 1, 1. We have 2 of 179, but then we have 3 values of 184. So 184, there are 3 of, so 184 is our mode. And that's how we do that. All right, so then the next part of this question, part B, is find the range, the variance, and the standard deviation. So the range is the lowest value, take away the highest value. So I'm just going to go back to so I can see. So our highest value was 192 and our lowest value is 144. So doing these in conjunction can be helpful because we've already done some of the work. You don't have to redo it. 192 take away 144 equals 48 cents. So our range is 48 cents per liter. Then our variance. So this is where you can create a chart if you wanted to, which I'm going to do sort of. So our first step was to find our mean. So we found our mean on the previous slide. So we'll just go back and look. So that was $1.47. So $1.47 per liter is our mean. And so now we need to find the difference. And I'm just going to write it up here just for the sake of base and instead of rewriting all of my values. And so what I do is I do 144, take away 174 is going to be negative 30. Sorry, negative 30 cents. So negative 0.30. And then continue. So 148, take away 174 is equal to negative 0.26. 152, take away 174 is equal to negative 0.22. $1.85, take away $1.74 is equal to positive 0.11. 179, take away 174 is going to be 0.055 cents. Positive. 184, take away 174 is going to be positive 10 cents. 180, take away 174 is going to be positive 6 cents. So you can see sometimes they're easier than others. 192, take away 174. Just want to make sure that my brain is working, is equal to 18 cents. 0.18. 171, take away 174 is going to be negative 3 cents. So negative 0.03. 184, take away 174 is positive 10 cents. 186, take away 174 is going to be positive 12 cents. 94, take away 174 is going to be positive 10 cents. And 179, take away 174 is going to be positive 5 cents. So that's step 2 of finding our variance. So then step 3 and step 4 is, step 3 is to square each of our differences. And step 4 is to add them up. So I'm going to do that all together in one step on my calculator, just to be organized and not have to rewrite my values and I keep them. Remember, you need to know how your calculator works so that you put your values in properly and you make sure that your negatives are being squared so that they cancel off, so you don't end up with negative values, because then that's going to screw up your value. So it's really important. So we have negative 0.3 squared plus negative 0.26 squared plus negative 0.22 squared plus 0.11 squared plus 0.05 squared plus 0.10 squared plus 0.06 squared plus 0.18 squared plus negative 0.03 plus 0.10 squared plus 0.12 squared plus 0.10 squared plus 0.05 squared equals 0.3044. And so then we divide that by the total number of points that we have, take away 1. So we have a total of 13 points, so take away 1. So we're going to divide that by 12, which gives us 0.025. So the variance is equal to 0.025. Just check that I wrote that down. Yes, I have the right numbers here. Okay, so here, because our values are decimals, our number is a lot smaller because it's a squared value than we would expect, because it's really different than what our values are. So then for a standard deviation, our standard deviation is the square root of our variance. So the square root of 0.025 equals 0.159, so 16 cents. So 0.16 dollars per liter, 16 cents per liter. That's how we calculate them. So you don't, again, you can just use a calculator to do your steps. That means if you make a mistake, I'm not going to catch it. And you might, know yourself better if you can track that information, or if you just need to write it down. Doing a table might be a great way to do it. You decide what's best for you. All right, let's keep going. All right, number 3, 2 scuba divers are 20 meters apart below the surface of the water. They both spot a shark that is below them. The angle of depression from diver 1 to the shark is 47 degrees, and the angle of depression from diver 2 to the shark is 40 degrees. How far are each of the divers from the shark? All right, so because we are dealing with angle of depression and angle and with degrees, this makes me think that we're using trigonometry in some way. And so I'm likely to have a triangle. So let's think about it. So we have a scuba diver. So we have person 1 and person 2, and they are 20 meters apart. So I'm drawing myself a diagram. And then we have a shark. Again, my diagram does not need to be perfect. So the angle of depression from diver 1, from person 1 to the shark, is 47 degrees. So I look out and down, and that's 47 degrees. And then from person 2, I look out and down, the angle of depression is 40 degrees. So then I'm just going to label my side lengths. I'm just going to label them X and Y. So we're trying to find the length of X and the length of Y based on this information. So to me, I see we have one side length and 2 angles. We don't know the angle across from the side length, but we only know one side length. So that means we have to be using the sine law. It's not a right angle triangle. So we have to figure out what this angle at the shark is. So we know that a triangle has 180 degrees. Take away 47, take away 40 degrees is equal to 93 degrees. So now I can use the sine law to figure out my other side lengths. So I'm looking for sides. So Y is over sine, and then I see that the one that across from it is 47, is equal to 20 over sine 93. So Y equals 20 times sine 47, all divided by sine 93. Is your calculator? Always check to make sure that my calculator is in degrees. I see that it is. is 14.6. So 14.6. So scuba diver 1, if we look at our diagram, is that was side Y. So diver 2 or person 2 is 14.6 meters from the shark. And then we can do the same thing for the other distance. So we do X over sine, and we look what's across from it. Sine 40 equals 20 over sine 93. And so X is equal to 20 times sine 40, all divided by sine 93. So A times sine 40, all divided by sine 93, equals 12.87 to 12.9 meters. Diver 2, person 2 is 12.9 meters from the shark. There's a reminder of the sign law. All right, question 4. Amy deposits $5,000 in an investment account for 15 years. What compounding monthly interest rate would she need in order to have $50,000 at the end of the term? So this says that I'm compounding. So that means that I'm using compounding interest in some way. So I'm not using simple interest. And she makes one deposit. So that means that it is just compounding. We're not making payments. So it's just the compounding formula. So that is A equals P times 1 plus R divided by N, all to the exponent NT. So we are trying to figure out what we need to find. So the amount that we want at the end is 50,000. So how much we start with is 5,000. Our rate is, what compounding monthly interest rate? So our rate is what we're looking for. Our N is our compounding period. So we're compounding monthly. So that's 12 times a year. And our T is our time length. And we're doing it for 15 years. So 15 is our T. So then we have 50,000 equals 5,000 times 1 plus R divided by 12, all to the exponent 12 times 15. So now we have to isolate for R. So 50,000 divided by 5,000 equals 1 plus R over 12 to the exponent. What's 12 times 15? 180. So 50,000 divided by 5,000 is 10, equals 1 plus R over 12 to the exponent 180. So now I need to take the 1/80th root of 10 to cancel off the 1/80th root of the other side. And that, let's just do that on Desmos. So the 1/80th root of 10 equals 1.0129. 1.01829, is that what I said? Straight. So I'm using more decimal places just because it's a small, to be more precise. So 1.0129 equals 1 plus R over 12. So now I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides in order to continuing to isolate for R. So we have 0.0129 equals R over 12. So multiply both sides by 12 to cancel that off. And we get 12.15. Oh, I forgot. I'm like, that doesn't sound right. No, I forgot to subtract the 1. So my bad. So it's 0.0129 times 12 equals, there we go, 0.1548. That makes more sense. I was like, that's such a big number. Because this should be a decimal, right? 0.1548 equals R. So Amy would need an interest rate of 15.5%. There we go. All right, number 5. In each situation, identify the sample and the population. A, Jen filled out the survey in the back of their cycling magazine and mailed it to the publisher. So the sample, B, people who read the cycling magazine. People who actually do the survey. And the population, be people who cycle, people who bike. We can assume. We could say that's all people, but probably people who bike or cycle. That's really what the survey is about, people who are reading a cycling magazine. All right, B, Wendell went door to door in his neighborhood to ask people for which mayoral candidate they plan to vote. So the sample would be Wendell's neighbors. Right, it's not asking everybody in the community, just in the town or the city, just Wendell asking just their neighbors. And the population would be Wendell's town or city. Mayor, so that's just going to be municipality. So it's not the whole province or the whole country. Asking about. All right, number 6, identify what exponent laws are needed to simplify the following, then simplify. So we have x squared to the exponent 4 times 3x to the 5th, all divided by 6x to the 10th. So I see here x squared to the 4th is the power of powers. So I'm going to do that first. So x squared to the 4th, we do x, so 2 times 4 gives me x 8th, because that's the rule for power of powers. I'm just going to rewrite the rest. And then now I see I have the multiplication rule, because I have x to the 8th times 3x to the 5th. So 3 is just going to be 3, but then x to the 8th times x to the 5th. So that's going to be x. It has the same base. And then I'm going to add my exponents. So 8 plus 5 is 13, all divided by 6 to the 10th. And then now here I see I have the division rule, because I have 3x to the 13th divided by 6x to the 10th. So 3 divided by 6 is 1/2, so which is 0.5. And then x 13 divided by x to the 10th, I subtract my exponents, so I have x to the 3rd, because 13 take away 10 is 3. And now I can't simplify any farther because I don't have anything else that has the same base or any other exponents that I can combine. There we go. And question 7, a bridge is supported by triangular braces. If the side of each brace has lengths 36 feet, 46 feet, and 40 feet, find the measure of the angle opposite the 46-foot side. So we have a triangle. Again, it's all good if we're draw our sketch and it is not perfect, I'm going to say, okay, I've got a longer side and some shorter sides. So I have 63 is one side, 46 is the other side, and 40 is the third side. I did not draw that properly, but it's all good. And we're finding the measure of the angle, how big the angle is for the angle opposite the 46 side. So I'm going to call that side C, and then B and A are my vertices, so that I know that this is side B, this is side A, and this is side C. So because I know three sides, I'm going to use the cosine law. Because I'm looking for an angle, I'm going to use the angle version. So cos of C is equal to A squared plus B squared minus C squared all over 2AB. So then I just solve, I substitute my values in and I solve. So A squared is 63 squared plus B squared, which is 40 squared, minus C squared, which is 46 squared, all divided by 2 times 63 times 40. You can do those separately. I'm just going to put them all into my decimals for the sake of time and ease. So 63 squared plus 40 squared minus 46 squared, all of that divided by 2 times 63 times 40. So that gives me 0.6851, 0.6851, 0.6851, 6. So then we need to do, so that's what cos C equals. So then, angle C is equal to cos inverse of 0.6851. So again, use our calculator because we don't have that memorized. Find cos inverse with our second function, and 0.6851. That's an angle of 46.7 degrees. So an angle of 47 degrees. That's what our questions asked. So the angle opposite the 46-foot side is 47 degrees. All right, so our course is almost complete. We have completed learning lessons 1 through 17. So now would be a really good time to submit any of the lessons 1 through 17, hopefully most of those. Remember, the key questions are the ones to submit for marking, the ones marked with the little key icons. Please do all of them and show all of your work so I can give you credit for your understanding and help you learn if you are struggling. Always, if you have any questions for me, please reach out and contact. I can't help you if I don't know you're struggling. So calling and leaving a message for me at the main office and I'll return your call at 807-737-1488 or toll free 1-800-667-3703. Connecting with me through email, we can then set up a time to talk if that's better for you. My email address is bronwyn.slate, which is spelled BRONWYN.SLATE@nnec.on.ca, or through Facebook at bslate Wahsa. I will upload this lesson shortly after it airs, so this afternoon on YouTube at bslate Wahsa, and my hours are 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. So I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If you need some help, I'm happy to help. That is what I'm here for. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you have a lovely afternoon. Mugwaj.